This is Pod Populi, podcast for the people.
Time for another episode of Under Pressure, and I'm with my good buddy, a man who has lived quite the life, Johnny Ringo. Thank you so much for being part of the show, my good sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, man. Getting up this early in the morning to hang out with my buddy Carmine.
I know when you get up early, you know it's for something very important.
Yeah, before the show, I was like, she goes, "What'd you do to get ready this morning?" I said, "Well, actually, I haven't been home yet. This is me from last night." That's not true, though. I didn't. Okay.
So, Johnny, I want you to tell everybody who you are. Like, what makes Johnny Ringo tick?
Oh, man, Johnny Ringo. I'm a pirate, entrepreneur, events promoter, anything I can do to not get a real job. So anything that's fun, I like to do. So what did you get your first start? And you said you had a granite company, right? Yeah.
You told me that a while back.
Yeah, I was in the marble and granite business for a long time. And then in 91, I started my own company, which was, if I had to do that over again today, I would never attempt it because it was ludicrous what I did. In a nutshell, I needed, we did fabrication, countertops, bar tops, and didn't do flooring. But to start the company, I needed a $30,000 awarded, bridge saw. I needed a forklift. I needed all this stuff, and I had $1,000 in the bank. So I used ingenuity. At 2 years of planning, I had a machinist buddy of mine make me a track. We put an adapter plate on the worm drive skill saw, and for 3 years, I pushed that saw by hand, cut, did everything I needed to do, and built it up to where I had 6 guys in the shop, full-time secretary, 3 or 4 trucks, and sold out in 2008, just before the economy went down. And that was the end of my granite era. Business just got and so many different marble shops popped up. Where I had my marble shop at, there was 5 companies around that when I started. When I sold, there was 5 companies in my set of warehouses. So the business just got saturated with everybody doing it.
And why granite anyway? Like, what, you had a background in it before?
No, just growing up in Daytona Beach. A friend of mine, I was this tile setter's helper, and this was in 1979. 79. I was a kid. I was like 5 years old. Not really, but. And next thing you know, he had a job for me in Fort Lauderdale, a union company, making like 5 times what minimum wage was. So that got me in the business, and then fabrication took off. And so I did that from 87 till 2008. And that's when I basically became a pirate.
Now that's where I like where this story takes.
Where the fun stuff starts.
Well, I mean, you were under pressure. That's perfect. That's why it's perfect for the show. You were under pressure right from the beginning with the granite company, and then you were like, you know what? Let me set sail. Let me become a pirate. But you didn't jump on a ship just yet, right? Where you were Captain Morgan impersonator?
Well, no. Captain Morgan's a Johnny Ringo impersonator. That's the way I see it. But we won't. That's the story for another show.
We got time.
After I got out of the granite business, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and everybody said I looked like Captain Morgan, and so I had a house in Big Pine Key, and I had this girl make me a replica Captain Morgan jacket, and me, her, and Sherry, my number 1 winch, she still dubbed that today. It's because the first time I was dressed as a pirate. Went down to the Keys for Fantasy Fest. I'd never been before, even though I'd been going to the Keys for 20 years prior to that, and it was a huge hit. I mean, people thought I was Captain Morgan, to the point where we're walking down Duval Street. We couldn't walk 5 feet without people stopping us to take pictures of me and my 2 winches. And we go upstairs, this party, they're yelling for us up there. We go up there, and they're like treating me like royalty. We got free drinks and food. We're up there for like an hour. I walk out on the balcony. There's a case of beads, and I'm throwing beads out, and people down on Duval Street going nuts. I'm like, I think I like this pirate thing.
I would like that too.
So after a couple of trips out to the balcony to throw the beads, because you got some fun sights in return for the beads, I look down, Duval this way, Duval that way, and I look, and I see a guy that looks like the Captain Morgan that's actually on the bottle. And I've got my 2 winches. He's got what I learned to be 4 Morganettes, 2 on each side that he's flanking with. I'm like, At this point, I look back into the party we're in above a bar, and I see all these Captain Morgan banners and stuff, and I realize that.
You went to a Captain Morgan
Yes, and they thought I was Captain Morgan. So I tell the 2 girls I'm with, Sherry and Hike, I said, listen, we got to go. So we're walking down the stairs, and they're walking up. I go, "Hi, Captain." He goes, "Hi, Captain." And I left. That's all I knew about it. We spent the rest of the weekend in Key West, and about a year later, I had somebody call me from Waterway Cafe saying, "Hey, there's a Captain Morgan impersonator up there." It was the Captain Morgan guy that worked for the company. So I stop up and say, "Hey," and he comes over and he says, he goes, "Hey, man, did I meet you in Key West?" I go, "Yes." He goes, "Dude, I literally went up there. It took me 20 minutes to convince him that I was the Captain Morgan." He says, "Lady goes, dude, Captain Morgan just left. And he goes, I'm Captain Morgan with the company. She's like, no. She grabs his beard. She goes, your beard's not, your hair's not even real.
Oh, my goodness.
They had to call the corporate. Yeah.
That's so great. Imagine you get hired for a job to be Captain Morgan, and you don't even have the paperwork to prove it because you one-upped them.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So I'd kind of like the pirate thing, which that led, this was I'll date it it was like when MySpace was around. Mm-hmm. And actually, I want to start one called R Space, but it was just a pipe dream. So we got back, and this guy reached out to me he wanted to do something out of Jupiter, Florida. And I met his name was Reef Dog, and it turned out to be a radio show. So we did a radio show called Pirate Soup Radio on 1230 WBZT, Clear Channel. And we was a call-in talk show every Sunday from 5 to 7, and we'd have people calling and drunk and hammered from Peanut Island every week. It was a fun show.
I remember because that's when I first met you.
Right?
I used to run some boards at it's iHeart, but it was the West Palm Beach location, and I was like, this show just seems really cool. Yeah, you like kind of doing a podcast before it was even a thing, before it was big.
Yep.
The innovator. And then that led to actual treasure hunting, which I am so interested.
Yes, that was cool because Reef Dog, turns out, he was a captain for a shipwreck salvage company, Seafarer Exploration Corp. And he's like, dude, you don't have a job. You've been diving your whole life. Why don't you start diving with us? So for the next 4 or 5 years, my full-time day job was treasure diving. I made $300 a week. Still to this day, the best job I've ever had.
I can imagine. It's incredible. How does that work? Like, how can you claim treasure? Like, without being a process? What was that?
Without being a pirate?
Yeah, without being a pirate.
You need a legal course.
Yeah, the legal way.
Let's say if a storm comes and you're out surfing, and the bottoms move through the wind and the surf, and a cannon's uncovered. Well, if you know somebody in the biz or whatever, you can reach out to the state to get an exploratory permit, meaning you can legally go down in that area, take pictures, not supposed to move anything, take pictures, and if there's enough and it warrants, you can file for a salvage permit, which they give a few of those out, and then you're legally allowed they'll give you a specific area that you can dive in and blowholes you can't dredge, and you can just work that site with a salvage permit, and you can pull things up. You have to tag everything, and the way it works, the state gets 20%, and
they take 20%?
20%.
That is unreal.
Yeah. So I became, over the years, great friends with the Mel Fisher's family and stuff, and actually, they got the 15th annual Treasure Hunters Cookout coming up on the 25th of this month. And, their shipwrecks. I worked on Mel Fisher's boat, the Virgil owner, actually restored it. We're working it on the Juno wreck site. And it's an interesting business. There's some interesting characters in the treasure business, unlike any other business I've ever been in. We'll leave it at that.
I could only imagine the cast of characters
but
that you run into there. How much unclaimed treasure do you think there's off the coast of just South Florida?
Well, a lot of people don't realize why they call this the Treasure Coast. It's not because of the Palm Beach and the money. It's because of the shipwrecks, because they came around the coast of Florida laden with treasure going up the Gulf Stream. Unfortunately, they didn't have the Weather Channel, so the storms would come in, and the king always said, don't sink my ships, beach them. So a lot of the wrecks are shallow water wrecks, like the 1715 fleet that the Fisher family works. Still to this day, off of Vero, Fort Pierce, Sebastian, they find stuff there every summer. It's still there's still more gold and treasure on the bottom of the ocean than all the vaults on top. It's still so much stuff out there. There's shipwrecks out there. Just some of them are deeper when they didn't. Some of the guys would try to outrun the storm, but it's a crazy thing. Treasure diving, you're down there at peace and tranquility, and I would think back to how we're kind of connecting the past with the present, and my mind would go to where these guys are out there on the ship, let's say it's night, and all of a sudden the waves are getting bigger, the winds are picking up, and what must be going through their minds as these, waves are crashing and just breaking the ship apart. It's horrific. And the 1715 fleet survivors, they've got a museum up there. They got the Mel Fisher Museum in Sebastian. They got the MacArthur Museum on the ocean. That's where they actually set up their encampment waiting to be rescued, and it had to be a horrible existence because of the heat and mosquitoes.
Everything.
They didn't have air conditioning back then. No. They didn't have off.
They had very little.
And that was back when you could see no seams.
So Mel's family, they're still actively digging and looking for treasure.
This point here is from the Etosha. That's off of Key West. And they're still working that site every summer. And the 1715 fleet, that's where like 11 out of 14 ships went down the same night. And so the way they did it, it was smart because it takes a lot of money to go out and look for treasure. You got maintenance on the boats, you're trying to pay the divers, and everybody's got to eat. And so what they did was you do a lease. like $1,000 for the season, and based on the size of your operation, you get a certain amount of an area of the different wrecks. There's a cabinet wreck, and there's all these different wrecks where they found parts of, and so what they do is the state will get 20%, fishers will get 40%, and the divers will get 40%. But then the fishers will take 5% of their 40 and they put it into a pool. And so if you go out, you get points like if you blow holes, or if you just get in the water with your metal detector, and you have a point system at the end of the season, even if you didn't find anything, but you went out and worked every day hard, you'd still get to divvy up the treasure from the 5% that they held back.
Oh, that's good. So
Yeah,
at least you're making somewhat of an income, because it's still an unknown.
Exactly.
It's not going to be the same. It's not a guarantee, oh, we're going to make this today.
Right. Most treasure divers don't do it for the fortune. They do it for the fame,
Yeah.
Well, I can only speak for myself.
And how accurate, I mean, you might be like, dude, it's stupid. But the movie, you ever see the movie Into the Blue with Jessica Alba and
Yes.
Paul Walker?
Yes.
How accurate is that?
And is Paul Walker watching?
No, yeah, maybe in heaven.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Is Jessica?
She might. I heard she's a
Hi,
big
Jessica.
fan. So it's not. It's grossly
It's not that hard.
exaggerated.
Did you ever see that movie Fool's Gold?
That's with McConaughey, right?
Yeah. That was accurate as it could get.
Really?
No, not at all. No. It's crazy. It's a crazy business. Like when you blow a hole, basically we'll spider web anchor the anchors out, we'll put a bow anchor out and 2 stern anchors out. So the boat, and you'll adjust the anchors to get right over the spot where you're trying to, we've got a magnetometer that tells you all these metallic hits, and we'll put the blowers down. If you've ever seen them, they call them mailboxes. They're stainless steel or galvanized aluminum. And basically the anchor lines hold the boat in place, and you put the boat in gear, and the prop wash just deflects and moves the sand. So we can blow a hole the size of this room, depending on how deep or water. If we're in 5 feet of water, 10 feet of water, 30 feet deep in 40 minutes. So then, and you leave one engine in gear, and it kind of cleans, because as you go down, it gets sandy like you're on a sandstorm in the desert. And then it gets blacker than the galaxy, because all those layers of sand eventually block out the sun, and you can't see anything. We say you have to close your eyes to make it brighter.
That's terrifying.
And we have divers that's been diving their whole life, but they've never gone treasure diving, and they hit that black hole, and they shoot to the top going, dude, I couldn't see anything. So it's crazy. It's a dangerous business, but it's a lot of fun. It's because you never know what's going to happen.
That's what I was going to ask you. How dangerous is treasure diving without the obvious stuff that's in the water that can get you?
Yeah, there's little things like when we pin the blowers down, when you put the blower in the water, and a lot of times we're in shallow water, and there's waves, as you know, and you got to put a pin through the thing that holds the blower in place. And your first instinct is to stick your finger in the hole, because you can't see to see where it's at. Yeah. You're underwater, and if a wave hits, literally guys have gotten their fingers snapped off.
Whoa.
Not me, but...
No, you got all your digits,
I got all of
which
them.
is good.
Yeah.
Got some nice hands. So
thank you very much.
Glad you kept them that way.
I was thinking about being until I smashed my I was going to be my hand model career went to the wayside.
You could just be a left hand model.
With
the watch, there you go. Look at that.
How's
Back
that?
to Jessica Alba. What do you think of his left hand? But the other thing I was thinking about too, Ringo, is because you brought up a good point, just how many wreckages there were and stuff, just how crazy it was to sail the seas back then. Because now in 2025, the ocean is still terrifying. We still don't know a lot about the ocean. And then back then, when you legit think there are monsters and sirens and mermaids.
It was crazy stuff that to do that. When you think about it, that they just did adventures that these guys went on with the pirates, and then, of course, the piracy out there, too. And the Fisher family, Mel searched for their Tosha for 16 years before he found it, and there's tragic on there, it's a son and daughter-in-law, but he never gave up that dream. Every day is today's today. But it's interesting, because some of the stuff they found, I always say that they were the original rappers, because they've got chains that are like gold chains that are 16 foot long, because the king couldn't tax you on your personal artifacts and your personal jewelry.
I did not know that.
So they would take gold over in Spain. They'd have it made into these 10 foot long chains, this gaudy stuff. Because now it becomes their personal artifacts, and they can get it back. They can get it back, at no extra fees to the king.
I love the way people avoid taxes. Any way they can throughout history. That is a beautiful thing. So, Ringo, what do you have coming up? Like, what's going on? What's next in your life?
We're going to be doing an event at the Twisted Tuna.
Oh, one of our incredible sponsors.
Yes, awesome upstairs room. We did one. I've done a couple cruises, Margaritaville at sea. We did the Pirates and Parrotheads cruise, January, I think, 2023. We did a post-bar with my singer-songwriter buddy, Jesse Rice, who's an amazing artist. He wrote the song Cruise with Chase Rice for Florida Georgia Line. and just went and saw him up in St. Simon's Island, Georgia last month. And so we're doing another, like a singer-songwriter thing. I'm thinking 3 or 4 songwriters with Jesse headlining in the private room upstairs.
That's good.
Don't have a date, probably August or November or something. Got to work around everybody's schedule. And planning some things at the Hope Sound Farmers Market. I'm going to meet with them next week. Just some music and food themed stuff. One's going to be a country themed one. And I'm taking a piggyback off an event I used to do for Captain Hiram's up in Sebastian for a while back. And we did a few of those. So fun stuff, just getting back into some events. I kind of retired from my rum business. That was a fun ride.
Yeah, Code Rum.
Yeah, yep. Started that in 2015 and grew that relatively quickly because of, the pirate following and stuff. And my goal when we launched Code Rum in 2015 was 100 accounts in the first year, and I was in over 250 accounts in the first year. But I was killing myself all over the state of Florida. By year 2, we were in Georgia, Savannah, Tybee Island area. Met a lot of great people through the business. It was a lot of fun. Parts I remember. We sponsored Ryan Sieg Racing, 3 different NASCAR. Yeah, exactly. 3 different NASCAR races: Daytona, Atlanta, and Homestead. Which we just on at the Homestead race last weekend, hanging with the a couple weeks ago now. Life's a blur.
Yeah,
hanging with the former race team. So just fun stuff. Going to get back to some events and a really cool thing, I meant to send you a video. My buddy Bobby Fazioli over in Orlando came with a brilliant thing that we're partnering up on called the T-Shot. And it's alcohol related.
Okay.
So we may be starting a specific spirits brand just to put a specific blend of liquor into the bottles. So like a 50 milliliter airplane bottle.
Yeah.
We modified that. We got the patents are all done. And it's basically going to golf course, you do your T-Shot. You buy the shots from the golf cart girl. Yeah. You drink your shot, but then the shot bottle doubles as a golf tee.
That is
so you drive your
genius.
Shot, you drink your shot, you drive your shot. And our tagline is "Drive responsibly." And it's a good thing.
That is a $1 million idea.
Yeah, I gotta give Bobby kudos for that, man. He's a smart dude, and we're excited about it. And
are you a good golfer?
Me?
Yeah.
Takes a lot of balls to play golf like I play. I'm not a great golfer. I'll be honest. I'm not even a good golfer, but I like playing with one hand because then I got an excuse. I've put some videos on TikTok. So I only play with one hand. Yeah.
I've tried to get into golf. I mean, I've been all right, mini golfing here and there. I think all of a sudden I'm good, but like when I could drive long, just not accurate.
Right.
So the same thing with you, Yep. It would take a lot of balls.
Once in a while I get lucky. I hadn't played golf in years, and even when I played back in the day, I wasn't never really that good at it. And I played with my son the day before his wedding in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I never played with him his entire life. He's 31. Tells you how long I went without playing.
Yeah.
And we played 9 holes that day, and I was like, I hit one hole, one ball. I'm like, man, I should take up golf again. And the next one, I'm like, no, I don't play anymore. And the next one, I'll be like, maybe I should take a lesson. And it was just up and down because I was up and down. And but the next day we played before his wedding, and there's 8 of us. We did a scramble, and he saw I was the 3rd or 4th best golfer that day. It had to be luck, but yeah.
Hey, you know what?
Because that definitely wasn't muscle memory.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day. So
there's that.
You're good to go.
Could have been alcohol too.
Very, very, very true. That's funny you said that because I'm convinced that there are 2 things that if I practiced enough, I would master. It would be golf if I played every day because it's something you can do kind of when you're drunk, even if you can't do it well, and bowling.
Bowling.
When I tell you, if I bowled for a straight month, there's no doubt
bowling, dude.
that I would bowl a perfect game. Have you ever bowled a perfect game?
No, not even close, but I still love it.
Yeah, no, I love it.
You could bowl. You bowled a perfect game?
No, but I'm saying if I practice for an entire month.
Yeah.
Because the only time I've ever bowled is when I go out and have a couple of drinks, and I bowl like a 170, almost 200. I feel like that's pretty good for someone who doesn't bowl often.
How many times a year do you think you bowl?
3?
Yeah, I don't even bowl that. I bowl like 3 times every 3 years.
Yeah.
But every time I do, I'm like, this is so much fun. I could be good at it.
Yeah, I mean, if you get encouraged to drink in a sport, you already have me. Like, I'm already halfway there. And then it's something like bowling, but I have no spin on my ball. I literally find the heaviest one and just chuck it. It's basically like a Neanderthal.
Right.
Bowling.
Dude, I've got a funny golf story. Sarah Chapman can vouch for this, longtime friend of mine. I took my granddaughter, I used to do Ava Pop Day, bowling one time, and my friend Sarah met us up at the Jupiter Lanes there. And I had Sarah convinced that I had a disorder that I could only bowl strikes. And so after I bowled one, she's like, what? And I bowled like 3 strikes in a row. She's like, you're kidding me. She goes, why aren't you on the tour? I'm like, they won't allow me because of my medical condition. Because no matter how I go, even so, I tried to do it again, and I didn't bowl a strike. But I'm like, and I have this on video. I'm healed. That would have been good. I said, even if I try to miss, right? So I pretend I tried to miss, and I bowled between my legs like this here, and hit the one pin and knocked the other pin. And at the end of the night, she was convinced that I could not bowl a strike unless I absolutely tried not to. And she was convinced of that. And Sarah, it's not true when you watch this.
Oh, she's going to have her heart broken.
I know.
The fact that you bowled 3 strikes in a row.
It's crazy. I know.
So your bullshit was believable.
It was
so freaking
I was in my head.
awesome.
I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I did not just bowl a 3rd strike in a row.
My cousin Dominic, he's a big dude, right? Even when we were like 14, 15, he used to take the ball, Ringo, and basically throw a line drive. Like it didn't hit the actual lane till it was like halfway down the lane. He was just throwing missiles, like piss rockets, just down the lane, to the point they were like, hey, I know you're a little kid, but like you can't play this way. It's like it has to roll on the lane because you're messing up the lane. Like it used to dent the lane and stuff like that.
Goodness.
Like my first 7 birthdays were at the bowling alley. That was like, I grew up super unwealthy, so like that's the only thing we could afford. And they used to get us every time you had a birthday at the bowling alley, they gave you a bowling pin. I almost had a full set.
What?
I had 7. It didn't make it another 3 more years for the 10th birthday to get a full set. But yeah, definitely bowling is one of those sports that maybe I'm delusional that I think I can master in about a month. Golf,
it starts up here.
I also say that, but I don't think golf.
I can't master
people are
that.
golfing for years, and you can just see.
Yeah, I couldn't master golf. It's too late for me.
Yeah, and you just see how the way golf is. You would have thought Tiger Woods would have every single record and wouldn't even be close. Like you think Tiger Woods would still be winning. The Masters is this weekend. It's now, right? The Masters is now.
Yeah, just
so
started.
you would think he would just never stop winning, and it just shows you. I mean, there's so many different things, and I think I'm not a golf expert, but the way Tiger played the game was not beneficial to his longevity.
Right,
in the
injuries,
game.
and I mean, it's like for anybody to do it that long, it makes them incredible because there's so much that can go wrong, between injuries. Like LeBron James, he's been playing for 80 years in the NBA?
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous.
He's still one of the top players, and that's the benefit of having all these incredible doctors and all these different treatments.
Training.
I mean, he should write a book about that because he's playing at such a high level, and basketball is not like it was in the 90s. I mean,
it's not as physical.
You sneeze on somebody, and then it's a foul. I mean, I've seen LeBron flop more than I've seen divers flop. It's just like, come on, bro, you're one of the greatest players of all time, and that's why he doesn't get the recognition maybe he deserves because he's got the records.
Yep.
It's the way he plays the game and maybe what he did, which unfortunately is kind of the way the NBA is now anyway. It's like, let's go play with my friends or let's make a super team because I can't do it myself.
Right.
And they always go back to, well, Jordan didn't need any help, even though Jordan had some Hall of Famers on his team.
True.
But
he probably helped make them that way. So your opinion, who's the GOAT, LeBron or Mike or MJ?
The way I like to look at it this way, LeBron, not to take anything away from him, but I feel like basketball is going down in popularity when in the height, it didn't matter if you loved basketball. You knew who Michael Jordan was, and you would get Jordans. You would buy a pair of Jordans. I mean, he was bigger than just a game of basketball.
That's true.
He sucked at baseball, and they still let him play baseball. That's how good he was at basketball. Like he decided to be like, hey, let me do a side quest and let me play some baseball. And I mean, he was in Space Jam, but I mean, he really changed. He
marketed
sports.
himself. It was a beginning of an era that's still continuing. I got a little basketball history. I played back in high school, and my son actually played college basketball. He got a scholarship. But, you talk about Steph Curry and his three-point shooting. I actually held a high school record for three-point shots, most consecutive misses. That record still stands today.
Did you also have a medical condition in high school that you had to miss three-point shots?
Apparently so. My coach would have thought that.
So how long did you play basketball, though?
4 quarters.
Oh, I fell right into that one, Ringo. So back to, I wanted to touch back on Code Rum and just how was it getting into it could be right on the nose because you were the whole pirate life, the treasure hunter. Is that why you went with rum or is it just because your love of rum?
Well, it's funny. It's funny how something can change your life. And at the time, I was doing events. I was doing a lot of charity stuff with Ray Lorenzo and his wife, Debbie. They used to own Stingray Fishing Outfitters, and they started the Lighthouse Ladies KDW Fishing Tournament, and they brought me on board one year to throw the parties around the tournament. And 3 tournaments later, I was the tournament director for the next 5 or 6 years. But we raised a lot of money for to help the Lighthouse for the Blind in the Palm Beaches. And where was I going with this?
How'd you get into Code Rum?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So I started doing all this charity stuff, and, because I got a taste of, the good feeling that came from it, and Toys for Tots. And I started the Pirate Head social group in 2009. And it was just a fun social group, and we did weekend getaways, theme parties and stuff. We do a pirate party at the Rum Bar once a year when it was there. And I was doing a monthly meetup at Kirby's in Juno Beach. And I met this guy, now Facebook was about, and he said, he sent me a message saying Pirate's Choice Rum and Pirate Head's a marriage made in heaven. And come to find out, he had a rum company called Pirate's Choice Rum. So he called me up one day and says, hey, I'm going to be in your area. Maybe we can have a rum drink. And we grabbed one at the Rum Bar, and we talked and stuff. And when I say, well, one thing can change your life, he mentioned that his daughter was a Marine over in Afghanistan in this remote region. They had partial electric, sporadic here and there and stuff. And some of the kids didn't get any cards from home, and they just like to share something from home. And I was getting ready to do my monthly meetup at the end of that month at Kirby's. I remember sitting there thinking, when he told me about his daughter, I said, "Hoorah, thank you for her service," went back to our rum drink, and probably never would have saw him again. But the way my mind worked, I'm like, I do this monthly meetups. Maybe we'll make this one a party with a purpose and do a meetup for the military. And so just talked to Sean Kirby, who stepped up, and he offered, free appetizers, put like buffet style appetizers out, and anybody brought in non-perishables got a free drink and a raffle ticket. And we had these 2 beer bins he gave us, and within the first 45 minutes, they were overflowing. I figured if people would stop and bring a can of this, and they were bringing like a case of toothbrushes and a case of toothpaste. And I mean, it was just overwhelming. And my former partner in the rum company, he was like in tears at the end of the night. We could barely fit everything in his SUV. We had a shipping company that was going to ship it to Afghanistan for free. They didn't realize how much stuff we're going to have.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great problem to have. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that kind of kept our friendship going. And at one point, I'm like, what's it take to start another rum company? Because I learned his was shutting down or had shut down. And he says, time and money. I'm like, I got time, and I'm a pirate, so let's do it. And that's how it all came about in like 2013. And originally it was going to be Pirates Code Rum, but Patron opposed our trademark because they have a rum called Pirate Rum, Pyrat. And they're a $4 billion corporation. Yeah, so they kind of won that one.
You don't want to get into that fight. You don't have the means.
Exactly. So so went the Code Rum and got the trademark for that. And I, I've been doing all these with Pirate Heads, doing these bar parties and stuff. So I had relationships with the bars. So when we finally got product made, we met with OPT, which is our original distributor. And they're like, we turn down brands every day. I'm like, I've got 30 bars right now that haven't even tasted the rum, willing to bring it in. And I had bar owners and bar managers' names to back it up. And because I had friends in the business, Daryl owned Tease Me Tequila, and they're like, may have to self-distribute for the first couple of years till you build up some accounts. I'm like, man, that's not going to work for me because I got to drive to deliver rum to Key West and come back and then go to Tampa. And I'm like, it's not going to work. So we pitched OPG, and they took us right out of the gate. And we were the fastest growing brand with them for a while there. But I was all over everywhere, man. It was fun, but it was 7 days a week, 10 hours a day.
It wasn't as fun as
it was started. Still fun. It just there's other things I wanted to do, and I started having grandkids, and and they don't drink because they're like they're little.
Yeah. Maybe back in the day. Maybe Pirates.
Now you know what happened with the ship. It wasn't the storms.
Exactly.
It was adolescent drinking.
Exactly. And then I totally blanked for a second. Where was I gonna go with? Yeah, this is fun, Ringo. What was I going to say?
You're talking about the rum.
The rum. Oh, yeah. Back to fishing real quick, because believe it or not, I've been down in Florida for 18, 19 years. Right. I've still never fished. I used to fish. I swear, I used to fish.
How have you not fished?
I used to fish a bunch growing up. Like, we used to go out to City Island because I grew up in the Bronx. So we used to go out to City Island, and we used to fish from the piers and stuff like that.
The Bronx?
The Bronx.
What apartment?
East 233rd.
Oh, that was you.
Yeah, that was me.
You're the guy with the bowling pins.
Yeah, the bowling pins. Yes, that's all we had. Bowling pins and some Oreo cookies. That's all I had in the apartment. But I used to love fishing. We used to go to Tom's River in New Jersey. My buddy, his dad had a boat, and I loved it. I was like, I want to go fishing. And till this day, have yet to go fishing in Florida. That's
ridiculous. I
It's
wouldn't tell
almost
anybody else
unbelievable,
that.
right? All right, well, that just told everybody.
You
that
just told
now.
a million people that there's more people.
Do you go out often though to fish?
Not as often as I used to. My son's coming down.
To, get an invite.
Well, I can get you out there.
Well, yeah.
We'll go after the show.
And what do you fish for typically? Don't say fish. Do not say fish.
No. It depends where I'm going. Dolphin depends on the time of year. Wahoo dolphin. Whatever bites. As long as it's edible.
That's what I was gonna say. I would love to catch my dinner.
You ever been lobster diving in the Keys or anywhere?
No.
You ever been diving at all?
Never been diving.
So
here's the thing. I feel like as soon as I go diving, one, I'll get attacked by a shark, and I'm the kind of person that you go in the pool, go deep, like 6 feet deep, and you already feel that pressure.
Right.
How do you deal with that pressure?
Everybody's different. Me, from treasure diving, for beginning of the season, I'll jump in and slowly, go down. But by, a couple weeks into it, no air in my BC head first, and I can clear my ears just by swallowing as I'm going down.
Yeah.
So I don't have any issues with my ears. But do you know why? Actually, you know why divers, fall off the boat backwards when they're getting in the water?
I do not.
Because if they fell forward, they land in the boat.
Damn it, Ringo. I should have known that was going to be something right there. But the actual pressure, like on a serious note, the actual pressure, you get used to it, or it's still something that you're constantly, you tolerate it.
We would spearfish, me and my buddy Chuck, 130-foot reef, and that's kind of deep. But, we found the anchor off the Juneau wreck in 77 feet of water. But once you get down there and you clear your ears, it's just, but some people can't dive because they have ear issues where they just can't clear their ears and there's pain. And but see, the thing about lobster diving in the Keys is you can get lobster in 5, 7, 8 feet of water. Snorkeling, you don't have to be a diver. That's why a lot of people go down there every year, And
that'd be fun. Lobster's delicious.
That's fun.
I freaking love lobster. And then they have the dogs that help out, right? Don't they have dogs that help with lobster diving?
I've seen videos where a dog will go down and get a lobster, but
I was when I first heard that, I was like, wait a second, you have dogs diving for lobster now? I was like, that takes, first of all, the fun out of it, but I was like, also impressive
not for the dog.
On the dog's part. That's
but then you got to split the lobster with the dog, too. There was that. It's always a catch.
Always a catch. What is the biggest catch that you've ever caught on a boat? Like, obviously everyone's got a fish story, so I'm sure you're gonna be like, it was a whale shark.
No, I haven't caught anything massive. Haven't done it lately enough, but yeah, we've caught a ton of dolphin down off Key West years back, but nothing of any. Where I'm calling my friend, dude, you should see this fish I got. So I'm just a weekend warrior, so to speak, but I do go during the week.
Yeah, it makes sense. So closest call when you were diving to tragedy.
Oh, boy, where do I start? The most humorous one was my buddy Chuck, who's dived with us for Seafair Exploration Corp. Him and I are diving, so we've got all these hits, these spots we got hit based on the magnetometer survey, and we'll get the coordinates and we'll position the boat. And we'll go down. So one diver will have the artifact bag and the underwater scooter, and then another diver will have the metal detector. So the guy on the bottom is doing the metal detector, like we're buddy diving, and I could hover, depending on current and visibility, 5 feet above him or 10 feet above him. And when he gets hit on the metal detector, he'll motion for me, and I'll come down with the scooter, and we'll use that to move the sand. And so Chuck's down there. He's got the metal detector. I've got the scooter. And all of a sudden, I start ascending. I'm like, what is going on? And I barely managed. I'm dumping my BC. There's no more air in it. Yeah. So I barely managed to grab the tip of his fin as he's kicking, and I put the death grip on it. And he turns around, and he's like, what? I'm like, and I'm going up. All of a sudden, I see his eyes get like this big. And I see him grabbing his knife as he's swimming up past me. And I can't see what's going on. All of a sudden, I start dropping back down. Well, our captain at the time, I won't mention his name, had let the fisherman get within our 300 yards of us. And he had a kid, his grandson or son on the boat. I don't know. They're fishing. Well, the kid had hooked my BC. Now, for that to happen, we're in 80 feet of water. For that to happen, he had to be perfectly lined up, the depth, everything. Hooked my BC, and he was trying to reel me in. So that was a little wild. But we used to. I've never had any close calls on the water because if you think about what can happen, you can prevent it from happening.
Okay.
So you always have to be thinking and clear head and stuff. But never any close calls. We had different captain. that close call for our diver girl, Rachel, which I just talked to her recently. She a little blonde surfer girl, she's a real trooper though. She would get seasick, but she never gave up. She'd keep diving, and she'd come up in the boat, and she had the buoy line, and our captain at the time put the boat in the gear, and all of a sudden just grabbed her up. She's sitting on a dive ladder, and she managed to let go, but it could have sucked her into the prop. And this was a tough girl, and she was literally in tears. I was really upset.
I mean, you get close to death there. I mean, that's terrifying.
There's things that happen, especially anything that happened on land is more of a 10% more of a chance for it to happen on the water, maybe 20%. I made those numbers up though.
Well, no one's 25%. Yeah, no, I think
it's grown as we sat here.
The last article I read, it was 40%.
40%.
Yeah, it was at least 40%.
That's right. I remember that article.
The biggest thing has to be not to panic, though, because like you said, you kind of have to anticipate things that could go wrong. Because I know one thing, I don't know a lot about diving, but the bends. Yes. Because you can't come up too quick. So if there's something that's going on down there, you just can't ascend to the surface because
that's everybody's first instinct to do. But
to get out as quick as possible. I know of the bends, but like what exactly happens to your body when that happens?
I think the nitrogen build up and you just start cramping up. And I've had friends that've had it. My buddy Kevin, he dives quite a bit. Pleasure diving, not treasure diving. And he's gotten I've never had it, it's just, I just make sure I come up slower than my bubbles.
Yeah, except for that one time when you got hooked. You were about to be someone's catch.
I was.
Whoever said you weren't a catch?
There you go. I wish he would have reeled me all the way up and I could have jumped out of the water.
Oh, my goodness. That kid would have never went fishing again.
He'd have been scarred for life.
Most people have scooped up bodies, but usually they weren't living.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you would have been the first actual live catch.
We're diving in the Keys one time. Me and my buddy's son, we've been diving down there for 30, 40 years together every lobster season. And we came back in to meet some buddies at Bahia Honda down in the Keys. And Marine Patrol boat comes in, then a paramedic vehicle pulls into the parking lot. And my son's buddy had sat on the bench to eat a sandwich because we're waiting for our buddies to get there to go out on the boat with us the second half of the day. And they came over and said something to his son, and his son grabs up his lunch and gets back on the boat. And he's like, "What's going on?" Well, they were pulling a body out of the water. But at the Bahia Honda Bridge, we used to dive that a lot. We, slack tight, we dive the bridge. It's like deepest area is like 26 feet. You see a lot of sharks down there. And apparently the story I got was the guy had got back in the boat, realized he left his dive flag in the water, jumped in with his weight belt on. And he drowned, which I don't know why he didn't just release his weight belt. But not that it was a funny part to the story. I don't know who the people were. It was 20 plus years ago. But we finished up. We got our other buddies on the boat. We're going back underneath the bridge. And all of a sudden, my buddy sees a $20 bill floating. And then we see another one floating. So now he gets the net, and we got like $120. And his 7-8-year-old son goes, "Maybe that was the dead guys."
I was thinking the same thing. Me and the 7-year-old had the same exact
Yeah, he's like, maybe that's, but we scooped it like $120.
I mean, he didn't eat it. In fairness, I mean,
that's
he
true.
He wasn't going to use it anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
But Ringo, this was an absolute pleasure, my good
It's always good to hang out with you, man. We're going to bowl, and we're going to fish.
We got to bowl, we got to golf,
we
got to fish.
We do it all in one day. It's a triathlon.
You know what? And we'll put it on Instagram, Under Pressure, so everybody can see.
We'll be under pressure, get everything done.
Everyone can see exactly what goes on. And speaking of, make sure you guys follow us on all social media platforms. If you like what you heard, tell your friends about it. If you didn't like what you hear, then you just got shitty taste. That's right. The way I look at it. So
I'm with you.